Hello, welcome to LIT314, American Realism and Naturalism. I'm Rob Welch, your professor for this class. Every week, as each module gets ready to kick off, I'll give a short video like this, and I will try to keep it short to highlight some of the ideas that it being the module, that it will ask you to ponder. So I'll also add notes as I think necessary about your assignments for that module. So let's get started with this first one. We begin with the beginnings of realism. Module 1 focuses strongly on just one writer, Walt Whitman, and the module places him in relation to just one historical context, the Civil War. Now, we have to start somewhere, and commencing with one specific writer and one very large historical event does let us sink down some roots to see the artist as both a creator of aesthetic works and as a real person who is part of a social, cultural, and political world. This sets a good pattern for us and how we should think about approaching literature of the past. So, for instance, our first discussion asks that you try to put yourself into Whitman's shoes, to think about your place in the here and now and your relationship with the world and everything in it around you as one of those metaphorical leaves of grass that populate the lawn that is our existence. So this all works nicely, I think. You think of yourself as a modern Whitman, and that helps you envision what it was to be Whitman in his own time, and you realize that his time had troubles and your time has troubles. And so, we can start making kind of empathetic connections between us and the past. Now, what I'd like to suggest, though, is that if we take what is happening in this module at face value, there is a danger that we might start simplifying the origins of realism. And I mean oversimplifying, really. If you look at this first module, you might take away the message, American realism started with Walt Whitman, and this was strongly influenced by the cataclysm of the Civil War during his lifetime. All right? To a certain extent, that is a supportable thesis for how realism got started. However, it is not quite the entirety of the truth. I'll post some notes in my announcements for this week on the subject. One really important thing to consider is that realism was not confined to the US, but was a worldwide movement in literatures across Europe. A second thing to consider is that French realism, German realism, both preceded British realism, and that all of them came before American realism got off the ground. Since literate people in the US were regularly reading European publications during the 19th century, we might therefore conclude that it is logical that American realism is actually just following their lead, that it's a sort of a copy of what was started elsewhere. And I'll just say that too is a supportable thesis for the origins of realism. Now, I do say it's supportable, and likely it is true to a certain extent, if I'm giving my actual opinion. But another and more regularly accepted idea is that the social, economic, and political changes of the 19th century were so extreme, but so consistent across Europe and the US that a kind of convergent evolution occurred in literature to meet the needs of the time for expressing these changes. In Europe, 1848 was known as a year of revolutions across the continent, and to a large degree, these were sparked by shifts in economics and definitions of class structures because of the Industrial Revolution. Simply put, a large middle class, a real one, and a large one, was coming into being for the first time. But at the same time, the wealth divide between rich and poor became extreme in a way that it never really had been, or at least that it hadn't been recently. So if we think about this in relation to our module's focus on political issues in the US with our Civil War, we can see that we're part of a pattern of turmoil. And out of that pattern comes a new way of thinking about what we are, who we are, and how we should define ourselves in the records of our writing and our artistic expression. Now, I'll say more in my notes and the announcements. What I want you to take away from this is this. We like simple answers. They are satisfying. But academic inquiry is about understanding complexities, about seeing the small pictures, all of them, we might say all of them as leaves of grass, inside big pictures. And this takes a real will to keep asking questions, even when we might stop with a single straightforward conclusion. In a way, when we are studying anything, whether it is literature or biology or chemistry or political science or anything out there, even, business and marketing, we get where we're going by bringing out our inner 3-year-old. Just keep asking why to everything that you see. Don't just don't just accept any given fact. All right. So that's really what I've got for this week. I'll post notes on what to look out for your graded assignments for this week. I'll give any clarifications I think are necessary. If you need to contact with me during the week or anytime in the future, we have several options. There is a forum for general questions on Brightspace. You're always welcome to do that. If you have a question that you want to make public so that the answer might help other people, that's perfectly fine. You can write to me. My email is on the class, and my direct phone number is there. As far as my phone goes, feel free to text me if you want to set up a meeting, or if you just want to ask me a quick question that can be answered easily by text. Or again, if you need to meet with me to have an actual conversation through remote means, that's probably the easiest way to set that up as well. Or again, we can work through email. It depends on what you're comfortable with and what the urgency of the need to contact me is. All right. I sincerely look forward to working with you this semester. I think I hope this will be a fun class for you, because I know I'm going to have a really good time. All right. So till next time, adios.